And so the charge gets written here. We're talking about electrical charge. Now, atom or an ion. Oh, they're not the same. It's an ion. I have one more than the atom, so we'll have a -1 charge. Atoms versus ions. Well, the big deal is the charge, okay? Atoms are electrically neutral. And what that means is the number of positive particles, or protons, is equal to the number of negative particles, electrons. So they have 0 charge. In fact, if there were a charge, it would be written right here, and that would be a big 0. But ions have positive or negative charges, and these are some examples of ions. And so the charge gets written here. We're talking about electrical charge. Now, obviously, to get a positive charge and a negative charge, if ions contain protons and electrons, they're not going to have the same number. The number of protons and electrons will not be equal. So let's talk about what happens when atoms lose electrons. Now, the big idea is electrons are going to come and go to make these ions, and this is a big part of chemistry. So you might want to make some notes here. If an atom loses an electron or more, it becomes a cation, and cations have a positive charge. And one of my students, I thought this was kind of cute, said that cations are positively adorable, like a cat. I like to look at the word cation and see that it's a plus sign. The T looks like a plus sign to me. So that's how I remember cations are positive. But anyway, if we have a sodium atom, what we know about sodium is the atomic number is 11. So it has 11 protons, 11 electrons. What about a sodium cation? It has a +1 charge. Well, it's got to have 11 protons. If it's sodium, there are 11 protons. But what has happened such that we have a +1 charge? We have lost 1 electron. So now we only have 10 electrons. Now, where did that electron go? We'll deal with that later. But for now, we know we've lost 1 electron. Now, look at aluminum down here. Aluminum is atomic number 13. So I have 13 protons and 13 electrons, right? Because it's electrically neutral. So my aluminum ion has 13 protons. Now, it's not going to have 13 electrons. What has happened such that we have a net positive charge of 3? It has lost how many electrons? Not 1, but 3 electrons. So now we're down to 10 electrons. So let me show you how you calculate charge. I have 13 positive particles. I have 10 negative particles. What's the net? Okay, and so that charge we generally write as 3+. So we have 13 protons and only 10 electrons. Now, what do we call a negatively charged particle? That is an anion. And one of my students, a different one, said that anion looks like the word onion, and onions make you cry, and that's really negative. Okay, I think that one's pretty good. So negatively charged particle is an anion. All right, so fluorine. Fluorine atom has how many protons? Well, it's number 9, so it's got 9 protons, electrically neutral. So my fluoride anion is going to have, again, 9 protons. Electrons, it's not going to be 9. What has happened? It has gained how many electrons? Just 1. It's got 1 extra. All right, so that's how we get that -1 charge. I've got 9 positive particles and 10 negative particles, and that gives me a -1 charge. That's where it goes. All right, oxygen is atomic number 8. So I've got 8 protons and 8 electrons for my oxygen atom. And then what about this oxide anion? Well, it's oxygen, so I still have 8 protons. And then what about the electrons? It's got how many extra? 2 extra. So it's got 10 electrons. All right, let's do a little practice here. First of all, let's write the symbol for each atom or ion. Well, how do we know if it's an atom or ion? What we're going to do is compare protons and electrons. So since they're the same, I know it's an atom. All right, I'll just write that there. If it's the same, it's an atom. So 3 protons, that tells me it's lithium. Okay, and I know my atomic number 3 goes there. I know the mass number is the protons plus neutrons, so that is 7. And then do I need to write a charge in that upper right corner? No, it's 0, it's electrically neutral. All right, now the next one, I've got 3 protons. Oh, it's lithium again. Okay, so compare the protons and electrons. They are not the same. So this is an ion, lithium ion. So my 3 goes there. I still have a mass number of 7. Now, how do I determine the charge? 3 positive particles, only 2 negative particles. So my net charge is +1. So that was +3 minus 2 equals +1. Okay, so the charge of that lithium ion is +1. The next one is 26 protons. I got to look that one up. 26 is iron. So iron has a symbol of Fe, and let's put the 26 here. And let's go ahead and get our mass number. Protons plus neutrons gives me a 56 here. Now, is it an atom or an ion? What do? We're going to compare the protons and electrons. They are not the same, so I know it's an ion. And what's the charge going to be? I have 26 positive particles, 24 negative particles, so it's a +2 charge, or we write it as a 2+. So think about this. We have lost 2 electrons. An atom would have 26 electrons. We lose 2. Now we're down to 24. All right, the last one. Number 17 is, I believe, chlorine, yes. And let's go ahead and get our mass number, add up protons and neutrons. 17 plus 18 is 35. And do we have an atom or an ion? Oh, they're not the same. It's an ion. I have 1 more than the atom, so we'll have a -1 charge. So I hope this helps you guys understand the protons, neutrons, and electrons of both atoms and ions.